I started painting seriously about 7 years ago or so. I basically came to the realization that I really wanted a lot of art on my wall, and I couldn't afford to do it. I couldn't afford to buy it, so I had to look around, and I went online and I went to the stores, and I realized, oh, maybe I should try and do it myself. And I quickly realized that it was actually a lot more difficult than I thought it would be. At the time, I spent a lot of time in the evenings working on art and, messing around with different mediums, and then I realized very quickly that acrylic was the thing that really excited me. I really enjoyed the versatility and just the ability that you can do pretty much anything with it. It can be watercolor, it can be oil, it can be anything you want, and I like the fact that it dries quickly, but also you can prolong the drying time if you want to. You can add mediums to it. You can do this. You can do that. It's to me, I prefer it the most. I realize that it's not the best for everybody, but that's what I really enjoy. Quickly, I realized that I might be onto something, because I got a lot of people, saying kind things about my art, and at first I thought that they were just being polite, and then I thought, well, maybe I should pursue this a little bit more seriously. And then I got invited from a friend of mine, Erica Messing, to do a group show with her, and I really enjoyed the whole process, and it really kind of springboarded me into this entire new world. And so I decided from then on that I was going to take this very seriously, and I got a website, and then I launched myself into the public realm. What I'm trying to do these days is mostly to highlight what I find, what other people would consider the ordinary or the mundane, and bring that and show how that can be beautiful. There are scenes when we're walking home from work, walking to work from home, or vice versa, and we come across a beautiful scene where the sun is rising or the sun is setting, and the way the light hits a puddle or reflects off a vehicle, and it's captivating to you, but then all of a sudden you just turn away and you go in the other direction and you forget about it. One of my most important things is to try to capture that on canvas, and demonstrate how those ordinary, mundane moments can be absolutely beautiful. And to kind of, for me, it's all about expressing what I feel when I see those scenes, and passing on a message. And sometimes that message that I'm trying to pass on, I feel as if it's much easier to pass it on visually through painting, rather than passing it on by word of mouth or in the written form. It's probably very much possible to pass on those feelings that I'm having, but I personally find it much easier to express it through painting. And I also feel as if, because there's an immediacy and an impact that the viewer has when they see a painting, that immediacy is a lot more effective than can be if you were to express a similar message in written form or verbally. So light for me, painting in the light is primary. It's the most important thing. Of course, everything else is important, but if the lighting and if the lighting isn't special in that scene, then I don't want to paint it. It's not exciting to me. The shapes, the colors, everything else, that I have to make sure that it's relatively accurate. But as long as I've captured what it is that excites me about the scene, as far as the lighting is concerned, if I haven't, then I've failed in that process. I like to paint scenes, places, because I think that I have I guess it's my sense of adventure. I'm always looking around the corner. Whenever I travel to a different city or a different place, I basically almost kill myself because I spend the entire time walking, and I'm always wanting to see what's around the corner, what's the next thing to see. And I don't necessarily want to see the major landmarks or go to the museums, although I do find those important, especially the art galleries. But what's most important to me is just getting the lay of the land and trying to mapping it out in my head and just kind of mentally conquering it. And I guess that's part of why I paint what I see when I travel. And even if I'm just going down the street, sometimes I get quite overwhelmed with how beautiful something is, and I have to capture it. And so that's why a lot of the times I'll use a camera, and most of the time I will paint from a photograph, and usually it's from one photograph, but sometimes it's from several. And so that's obviously the handiest tool that I have when I am traveling, or if I will never leave without a camera, whether it be my iPhone or my SLR or my smaller camera. I can't remember what the smaller camera is called, but whatever, it doesn't matter. But I always have to have a camera, and if I ever forget it, it's one of the worst things that ever happens to me, especially if I come across a scene that I think would be beautiful to paint. Even when I probably shouldn't admit this, but sometimes when I'm driving, I take a photograph, and a lot of my paintings that I paint are of raindrops, so you can actually see the raindrops in the foreground in more of a focus, and the scene in front of me is blurred, and usually that's captured when I'm driving. I'm very good at doing it, so nobody needs to be that concerned about it. I probably shouldn't have admitted that, but I guess that's okay. Well, you know what, yeah. I don't do it anymore, though. No, I definitely don't do it anymore. I usually get somebody else to drive. Anyways, so I have to have my camera with me at all times. I just remember a couple of days ago I was very disappointed. There was a beautiful scene on Dallas Road near where I live. I mean, where we live in Victoria, we're extremely blessed. I often tell people that there is no such thing as a bad season in Victoria. Every season for me is good, even especially the winter. I find the winter the most appealing because the light changes so quickly, and the colors, they change so much. In the summertime, it's great because it's warm and it's sunny all the time, but it doesn't make for very interesting subject matter to paint. I find inspiration in gray skies as well. I'm not quite sure how to define my style of art. Sometimes it's quite abstract. Mostly it's abstract when I feel the need to add something to it, where it's just too boring visually, so I feel the need to add something to it. But a lot of the times what I paint, it's never exactly what I see in front of me as far as the photograph or photographs are concerned. It's more, I use a lot of creative license with the color and everything like that, and the shape and and the use of my brush strokes and things like that. But usually it depends on the photograph that I take. But I try my best to deviate from true realism, because I feel as if I'm worried that I would be concerned that would take away from the emotional aspect that I'm trying to convey within the painting. I think, and it's so easy to get bogged down in the too many details, and that's something I'm always struggling with, especially with my urban scenes. There are so many lines and so many shapes and so many little things that I could add if I really wanted to, and I've got to pull back. And oftentimes, many times, I will paint something and it will be too defined, and it will take away from the overall awe that I'm trying to convey. So I will just have to paint over it and start again, or just smudge it up whichever way is necessary. But that's one thing that one of my biggest challenges, is to try and keep the overall impact, the actual message, and not the details. Although at the same time, when I say that, I like my paintings to be multi-layered. I like something to be revealed every single time a person looks at it. So if somebody buys one of my paintings and takes it home, I want every single time that they see it, there to be something that they see in it that they didn't see previous. And that's very important to me. Getting back to the whole message thing for me, sending a message, to me, it's a cycle. The painting has a life cycle to it. It's born when I conceive of the idea, and I take a photograph, and then I take it home, and then I start painting, and then I complete the painting, and then it's the actual cycle isn't complete until I've shown it to the public, and that's when the message is received. And that's why I feel as if I've reached this catharsis almost. Like it's a very satisfying feeling especially when somebody looks at one of my paintings and they get exactly what I'm trying to say. I'm working on a commission right now for a really nice couple that they bought one of my other drop paintings called 5 Points, and it's a scene at the 5 Points intersection, which is in Fairfield. It's not really important, but it was a nighttime scene, and there was raindrops, and it evoked a lot of emotion, and it really spoke with them, especially seeing as it was in the neighborhood that they live. So they wanted something similar, so I painted this for them. I don't have a name for it yet, but it's of Dallas Road. You can see Clover Point off in the distance right there. And this is kind of looking toward James Bay. Memorial Crescent is right here. So I've been working on it for a while. It is quite time consuming to do the raindrops especially. And but before I even put the raindrops in, I have to paint the initial scene, and the initial scene is quite tricky because I have to constantly remind myself that it has to be relatively out of focus, but the focus varies depending on how close the objects are to the viewer. So this vehicle, for example, is a varying degree of focus, whereas this one is even less so. And then, of course, the final thing that I do is add the raindrops, and that's always the most time-consuming and the trickiest thing to do. But I think it has a really nice effect. And I'm quite pleased with the results. This one's almost complete, and I'm hoping that the purchasers will be very happy with it, because I'm pretty happy with it.